Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here, back in the home weather office with another detailed weather forecast. While the weather pattern looks to be calming down in the short term, there are early indications from both the GFS and the European model that the weather pattern is about to get really wild by the end of March into early April. So when we look at the GFS model for this afternoon, there is some severe weather that is anticipated late this afternoon into the overnight hours over portions of southwestern Texas, southern Texas, and even in portions of eastern Texas. But the threat today is not as bad as yesterday. And that's why we're not going to go live on this as far as I know for right now. But nevertheless, there will be some severe weather over the next couple of days straddling the deep south as we get some perturbations from upper level energy transitioning into the deep south, into the southeast. And every time that happens, we get a cluster of severe thunderstorms that wants to develop. But once that goes by early next week, much of the nation will have quieter weather other than some colder temperatures for the Great Lakes and for the upper Midwest, but otherwise looking nice and beautiful because of surface high pressure building in. But it's not going to last very long. And that's because the GFS model wants another system to develop over Texas and Oklahoma by Thursday morning next week. So nearly 5 days from now, we could be continuing with another start or another round of severe weather potentially over the deep south, such as Texas, the Arklatex area, and then eventually into the southeast and the deep south by Friday into Saturday. But it doesn't end there, as the GFS model continues to indicate that there could be a very high impactful system, such as a nor'easter yet again, for the extreme northeast and for the eastern seaboard, bringing quite a bit of snow, the potential for serious winds and heavy rainfall for these locations, including for very high surf because that surface low is very deep. And you can see that on the edge of the screen, a very powerful surface low could be on the docket. But it doesn't end there yet again, as the GFS model continues to indicate that there will be another impactful storm system, but this time it could be for the Midwest. Look at this. Big time snow, big time rain over the high plains, the deep south. This could be our next round of severe weather yet again, as this weather pattern gets more active and more energetic because of the jet stream that straddles the location. And you can see heavy rainfall over the southeast for the deep south. Could be a huge impactful system if this actually comes to fruition. Now, when looking at the European model really quickly, it has a whole different scenario with a cutoff low off the southeast coast, whereas we got a big monster snowstorm and ice storm for the northern tier of the United States, which again, this is why there's a lot of uncertainty beyond the 6 to 7 day forecast, as models are trying to figure out what might end up happening. Now, when it comes to those temperatures, it is going to feel like winter for a lot longer than what we thought early on in the forecast, because there is much colder air coming for the northern tier of the United States, including for the Great Lakes. Take a look at the European model. For the deep south, though, it is going to be nice and lovely with temperatures in the 60s and 70s, and in fact, some areas might even get into the 80s. But look to the north there is more colder air coming. Not right away. It is going to take its own sweet little time to get here, but when it comes in, you will know it, because temperatures are going to be in the teens and in the 20s overnight, and this could literally lead to more crop damage because things are beginning to bloom because it's been so warm and now it's cooling down yet again. But look at this. Colder air moves into the Great Lakes. Big warm up comes for portions of the high plains, and you can see that, but it doesn't last long before another surge of colder air tries to move on in. Look at these temperatures in Minnesota. 5 degrees overnight. Yeah, 5 degrees, and then you warm up, but you barely warm up once that colder air comes in. Whereas Canada, you're going to have temperatures right around -10 to -30 degrees below zero. Yeah, it's mid-March, and here it is wintertime. Just doesn't make sense, right? And so that's going to continue for a while, and if we get anything significant next week, it'll be very interesting. 70s south of this front, 20s north of it, with temperatures in the single digits during the day in Montana and the Dakotas. Now, what about those temperature anomalies? Well, definitely going to feel cold for some, and it will feel warm for others. So let's go forward into the model forecast here, and we can see temperatures will be below average across much of the midsection of the United States and the Great Lakes, but you look up towards Canada, temperatures will be 20 to 30 degrees above average, and this continues all the way into the middle of this coming week. All right, so for Thursday, 5 days from now, temperatures will be 10 to 15 degrees below average, whereas portions of Canada, you might have temperatures 30 degrees below average. And then look at more colder air really sets in, and look at this, temperatures could be 40 degrees below normal potentially over Montana and the Dakotas by the last week of March. So it's definitely going to be a big change in the weather pattern that we're not used to yet. So keep that in mind. Versus to the south, you have temperatures 10 to 20 degrees above normal. Now you might be asking, why in the heck is this weather pattern setting up the way it's going to be? Well, it all has to do with the jet stream. Right now, we got northwesterly flow, so keeping much of the colder air over Hudson Bay and Canada where it should belong. But occasionally, when we get a strong jet stream that rides down like this, the jet stream seeing southward, we can get some very active weather pattern setups, right? So we got more colder air. Look at this jet stream. Really strong, carving its way into the deep south and into the Great Lakes. And every time that happens, we get some nasty, wild storms that get going. And here's another one of those systems, very strong system over the southeast because of this jet stream. And look at it, it continues. So a very active weather pattern looks like could be setting up by the last half of March for much of the nation, with big snows, ice storms potentially, really warm temperatures for the deep south, very cold for the north. And when these two air masses clash into each other, we get a big active weather pattern that usually ends up being the case. Now, before I do end the video, I do have 5 important announcements to share with you all. As always, I've been mentioning this in my past few videos. I am going to be hosting a total solar eclipse live stream on Monday, April the 8th, 2024. It begins in my location at Kerrville, Texas at 12:15 p.m. We're going to be making the drive to Kerrville, Texas on April the 3rd. It's going to be a very exciting event. And not only that, I will be doing a Q&A live stream on April the 2nd about what my plans are for the solar eclipse. So I highly recommend you all joining that stream so that way your questions can be answered if you have any. And then, of course, my first Atlantic hurricane seasonal outlook will be released on April the 15th. So on Monday, April the 15th, is when it will come out. And then my first routine tropical weather outlook will begin on May 25th, and it will run through November the 1st. But as always, you could also follow me here on Discord at Weather Force Today. There will be a link in the description below this video, along to go with my Twitter. But anyways, if you did enjoy today's detailed weather forecast, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit the like button and share this video with your family and friends on social media. As always, have a great rest of your Saturday. I'll be back in the home weather office on Monday with another detailed weather forecast for your location.